Welcome back to Behind the Vocals. This week we have the honor of being joined by Johnny Ciardullo of Carcosa and Angelmaker. It's an awesome episode. We talk about everything from vocal care, how he got into vocals, to even content creation as a musician and a metal musician and vocalist at that. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. So without further ado, let's get into it. We are back and we are joined and blessed to be joined by the one and only Mr. Johnny from Carcosa. Sir, how the hell are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Ready for summer to be over. We were just talking about that. I'm tired of being hot. I'm ready for fall. Fall is my happy time, if you can't tell from behind me. I like Halloween just a little bit, so it's right up my alley. And the weather.
Whereabouts are you from?
I'm from Tennessee, so nice and humid and miserable.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like in Vancouver, it just rains 24/7, except for the summer. It's super hot, so I'm just getting ready for that rain again.
Oh, nice. Nice. Well, what we like to do to start, if you will, well, before we do that, actually, I have a bone to pick with you, sir.
What up?
I need to know, is there anything you can't do?
Yeah.
I don't believe it, because
of course,
everything I listen to of yours, I'm just like, really? Like, over here, just beautiful cleans, gutturals, highs, everything. Your range is insane. What, I mean, is this a superpower? Like, what is going on here? Guitar shredder? Like, come on, man. Give me something. Tell me, like, I suck at something. Like, I'm clumsy, or give me something here for a little bit of hope.
I mean, I can't play drums very well. Like, I can a little bit, but definitely not like metal drums. But like, I don't know. I think I just try and work on all those things because I don't like relying on other people. So I just want to be able to do as much as I can on my own and be self-sufficient. And then like when I'm in, bands, I get to work with other talented people, and then it's fun, But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, but I don't know. I just do stuff.
Dude, so good. I've been hung up on your Heavener cover for a little bit. I've been on a Invent Animate kick,
fuck yeah.
And it's, dude, you crushed it. It's so good. So good.
Thanks, man. Invent Animate is like quite possibly my favorite band, and I think they're one of the best metalcore bands from the past 10 years. I think that all of their records are unbelievably consistent, even when they had their old vocalist Benjamin. I just like love that band to death. So I think I've covered like a fuck ton of their songs. It's on my list to do a full cover of the recent record because they released instrumentals. So I was thinking about doing that.
Hell yeah. I definitely want to get into some of your covers a little later, but for now, I like just to kind of give you the floor, let you introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about yourself for those that may not be familiar with you or know much about you.
Sure. My name is Johnny Ciardullo. For those of you that don't know how to pronounce my last name,
that would probably be me.
Ciardullo.
That would be me.
Yeah. It's Italian, so just like Ciao is spelled, that's how it's said, CH. Ciardullo. I play in a band called Carcosa. I do vocals and I write a lot of the music in that band. And I play guitar in Angelmaker. I am one of 3 guitarists. I'm not an original member of Angelmaker. I'm a newer guy. I joined in 2020, but I tour full time with Angelmaker pretty much, and Carcosa when we do it. I also have a third project that I've been in for a few years. Not a lot of people know about it because we've been quiet for like 4 years, but I do a metalcore project called Bastion as well, where I do mostly clean vocals. So if you're ever curious to hear more of that, that's where you go. Nice. And then I do internet stuff, and that's about it.
Nice. Is Bastion, are you guys going to tour or anything, or is this going to be like a studio project, or what's the future with it?
I think it's mostly going to be a studio project. If offers ever come through to tour, we obviously would do it. But I think for now it's mostly studio, and if we can do local shows in Vancouver, we'll do that.
Awesome. Hell yeah. All right. So how long have you been doing vocals?
It's a interesting question because I grew up in the MySpace era of deathcore, and
good times.
I was listening to band. Oh, some of the best. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. Really, like I got into Whitechapel first and foremost, and I kind of just wanted to be Phil Bozeman, I think is what it was. And I just tried to emulate his vocals as much as I could, and that was like 2007, 2008. So I don't really say I was doing vocals then because I was kind of just learning and
Yeah.
just trying to find my voice and do whatever. So I didn't seriously start paying attention to vocals probably, I've probably been doing them for about 8 years, I'd
Okay.
say, like properly using my diaphragm and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd probably say about 8.
Okay. Favorite
Yeah.
Whitechapel album? I have to ask with the shirt and the Phil Bozeman reference.
Uh, I think it's just because of where it all started for me. Somatic Defilement still
Yes.
hits every note for me. But like those 3 records, like Somatic Defilement, This Is Exile, and then New Era,
Yeah.
like those 3 are just super awesome. And like I still did dabble in everything as they started putting them out. I really do need to get into their latter half of their discography now since they've changed their sound. I personally like I don't care if they change their sound or not. I think a band that's existed for that long is allowed to
Yeah.
do whatever the fuck they want, you know? But I haven't gotten into it yet, so that's kind of like on my list of things to do.
They're coming out with a new album. I think it's done, but I don't know. There's nothing released. But from what I've heard, Phil was saying it's more somatic. This Is Exile sounding, which is really exciting for me because, like you, I love those 3 albums. They were fantastic.
Yeah, I think Phil and the boys are listening to what people are kind of saying in the sense they want to maybe a little bit of return to the old form of heavy stuff, which is cool. But I think it's going to be a really cool blend of the old sound mixed with the new. So like the atmosphere that they have in the new stuff mixed with the heaviness and brutalness of the old stuff. So I think that's like a best of both worlds. Everyone wins, right?
Yeah, I can't wait till they release their first single from it. I'm really excited to see what they've been cooking.
Hell yeah.
All right, so what inspired you or got you into being a vocalist in the first place? Was it just hearing Phil and like, man, I want to do that, or what kind of pushed you to get in to pick up the mic?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Phil related. I just thought he was cool and made crazy noises. And the thing with vocals, and I think why a lot of people are very curious and vocal centric right now, especially in deathcore, it's very much like a idolized position in a band, is because everybody has like a voice and you can use it. You don't have to play guitar and have those skills to play guitar. Like you can use your voice and do vocals and stuff like that. So when I was younger, I was like, oh shit, I think I could maybe try and do this stuff because why not? And like I was just super heavily inspired by heavy music growing up. So like listening to Cannibal Corpse and stuff, I was like, I want to sound like that. I wanted to sound like all of these guys that I was listening to. So I was kind of just doing a lot of experimenting and writing.
Okay, nice. So I kind of have a feeling I already know where this is going, but did you play any instruments before vocals?
Yes, I'm a guitar player first.
Okay.
First and foremost, I started with guitar. It was like my first love and passion. I grew up around a lot of, classic rock from my mom and, blues like Stevie Ray Vaughan and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to try and play like that. So that was kind of the roots of where I began. I think I began like every kind of kid who wanted to play guitar in that era is we all wanted to learn how to shred. So like I would listen to like Between the Buried and Me and try and learn like Selkie's The Endless Obsession, like that sweet stuff at the end. And so I was like a very much guitar player first. And when I went to college, I went to college as a guitar major. And I left, learning a lot about vocals and doing more vocals, but I also left a bass player. So like when I went to college, I brought a bass with me just to, have and use to record or whatever. And then once people know that you can play bass, they ask you to play bass in everything. So I left college playing bass for a bunch of bands, and I did, country music for a really long time doing that kind of stuff, which was fun. But I always did vocals on the side, mostly singing, not so much screaming. Screaming kind of came a little bit after that.
How was doing bass for a country band, especially considering the
cool.
kind of music you do now? Like, how was it?
I had fun doing it to an extent. Like, I really wanted to play like old school country music, or like country music that really had like that feel to it. Like I really like, bands like or artists like Chris Stapleton and stuff now. And that's what I wished I was playing, but I wasn't. I was mostly playing like pop country. And playing bass for that stuff is pretty fun, like I will admit, but it kind of felt like I was selling my soul. It didn't really feel genuine, you
Yeah.
know, as much as I wanted it to be. But I did it for a long time, and you know, I got to play some cool shows, and I was pretty happy with that. But my true passion was obviously heavy music, so
Did you
I'm
ever
much
get
happier
bored
doing.
on stage or anything, especially with like how you play guitar or anything like that, where you just like kind of like dumbed down with like what you were playing on bass compared to like what you normally play or try to play or anything?
It's just you have to approach the instrument differently, you
Okay.
know, especially with bass in country music. Like it's very much like you're holding it down with the drummer, and you can't really do anything too flashy. If you start doing really flashy stuff, the vocalist will turn around and be like, you know, what are you doing? Because country music is very much also a vocal
Yeah.
centric genre, and it's usually built around a vocalist, which the band I was in definitely was. So you can't really get away with doing stuff like that. So I kind of generally just stayed in my pocket and did my thing. I was told before to kind of like tone down my stage presence a little bit because I think I was treating it like, you know, it was a bit heavier than it was. So yeah, it was fun. I'm glad it was a chapter of my life. I'm glad I did, but I'm happy doing this now.
It probably helped you as far as like songwriting and everything now, going through all that and learning bass, and then I mean just more experience pretty much in different genres of music and everything.
Yeah, it's the kind of cool thing, and touching on kind of what you were saying before on just like doing a lot of stuff is when you are songwriting, you look at it from every angle. You don't only look at it from like a guitarist point of view where I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to write crazy shit that's impossible to write vocals to. You know, you kind of write a song and tailor it around everything. Like I think drums would sound good like this or bass like this, and you tailor it to everything instead of just like a narrow-minded
Yeah.
like guitar go whittly woo, you know.
All right. So, how did you learn how to do vocals exactly? Just like you said, imitating Phil. Did you find like a YouTube video or anything? Did you find Zenna Screaming? I mean, was it, how did it start out for you? Like, what did you get into first?
You pretty much nailed it. I mean, Zen of Screaming was the first thing I saw that was ever like a vocal lesson
Yeah.
kind of thing on the internet. Like kids now like have it really good where you have, you know, Cardavox Academy, you have Extreme Vocal Institute, you know, Charismatic Voice. You have like all of these vocal channels that teach kids how to do vocals properly too, not even just like how to do them, but how to take care of your body, your anatomy while you do it. But when I grew up, there wasn't really that around. There was traditional, you know, vocal teachers, but they didn't know how to handle this. Is kind of new, right? So Zen of Screaming, I remember torrenting it when I was younger and watching a lot of those. Sorry, Melissa. But yeah, that was a big thing. And then kind of later on, I watched a lot of like Andy Sizek and what he was doing, and he
Yeah.
had two really good vocal videos that I think are still kicking that people watch, which is how to do fry and how to do false chord,
Mm-hmm.
which I still recommend to people to this day because his explanation on how to do it is really good. And like when I got back into like actually trying to do vocals full time, those were the videos that I watched. But when I was growing up, the only way I really learned how to do any techniques was by imitating other vocalists and covering a lot of songs. That was like my big thing and still is. And that's how I learned new stuff is covering other musicians and artists. So that's what I was doing growing up. And I think it helped. I probably didn't know what I was doing at all. I just kind of did it. And now that I have a little bit more knowledge in my brain, I understand what to do now. But back then it was just like, I want to try and do that, you know?
Didn't Andy go to Melissa or worked with Melissa at one point? I feel like I've seen videos of them together.
I'm assuming so. I think she's been really tapped into like the younger crew of vocalists now, and I know that she's been talking to a lot of them, and she's been working with a lot of more people in the industry. So I would not be surprised.
And then I've seen he's doing stuff with Chris Lipe now too, also. Which Andy, like you said, his tutorial videos are very, very good. I do like them.
Yes.
Zenna Screaming's how I learned. Before that, it was just throwing shit at a wall, pretty much, just screaming, yelling loud as I could, like, can I do this? Can I not do this? Oh, this sounds terrible. Let's not do this. This hurts. And then Zenna Screaming, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, okay, there's ways to do this properly and not, and be able to talk tomorrow, pretty much.
Yeah, which is important, especially if you're touring and doing shows every single night. Like, you don't want to blow your voice out immediately. It's important to have that knowledge of warming up and aftercare, you know?
Absolutely. So what are some early mistakes you made whenever you were learning?
Probably kind of akin to what we're talking about, where I would push it too hard. Um, I would try and just do too much in a short amount of time, and I would, really start to feel it in my throat. Like it's not actually true. Like you can't callus your throat, but like over time you start to build muscle memory with your throat, and it gets used to what you're doing, and it's not as abrasive. But like in the early days when you just start, you really start to wear away at your vocal cords. And I never had any tearing or anything like that, but I definitely had a hard time talking. So I was just like, I need to take this a lot slower than I'm doing. I think I was like impatient,
Yeah.
and I wanted to sound like everybody like right away. And I know a lot of kids now kind of also feel that way, but I think patience is the biggest thing I preach when it comes to learning how to do vocals. Is this shit doesn't take like 2 days.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could take 2 years, longer. It's you just gotta trial and error.
And like I think Will or Amos, he's been doing it 10 plus years at this point, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I know everyone sees the Hellfire, all that stuff, and they're like, oh wow, I want to sound like that, but there's a lot of work and time and practice that's went into getting to that point. I mean, and it takes time, like any instrument or any trade, any skill.
Yeah, listen to Will's old stuff too. Like his vocals sounded different, in Awakened Providence and all that stuff. Like he grew as he got older. And that's the thing too, is like if you're starting young, your body and your vocal cords and all that stuff are going to change. So you kind of have to just like deal with that as it goes.
Absolutely. So was there ever an aha moment when you were learning? Did it ever just kind of click where you're like, okay, got it now? Kind of like you said, with pushing too much, you're like, I need to take a step back. Was there ever that moment?
Yeah. I kind of had like a weird realization moment later on in my life. I Before Carcosa was Carcosa, we were a band called Galactic Pegasus, and the band existed for like, just about over 10 years before Carcosa. And I did that for about 7. And we had a vocalist at the time, and we ended up parting ways with him, and I decided I would try and do vocals. So I started recording on our new material, and in doing that I was like, oh shit, I think I could actually do this. Like I started experimenting more and doing more stuff, and I was like, oh shit, I think like I could potentially do this instead of doing, playing bass or playing guitar. And that was kind of it. After I wrote that EP, I was like, okay, I think we got it. I think I can maybe give this a shot. And then the rest was history after that, I guess. But that's from like 2008 is when I started doing vocals, and then I kind of didn't take it seriously up until like, 2017. So
Nice. Okay.
big gap.
Oh yeah. It's just a little bit. Just a little bit of a
Yeah.
gap. So what routine do you have? Do you have a routine? Because not everybody has a routine, which is, I find this really interesting because it definitely varies depending on the person, what they find works for them. But does it fluctuate or change depending on, if you're playing a one-off show, if you're in the studio, if you're on tour, or if you're even under the weather? Do you change up what you do? Do you limit it? Maybe do less, do more?
If I'm under the weather, I'll probably half the warm up that I do. The warm up I do is about 15 minutes long,
Okay.
and a lot of it is lung expansion warm ups, and a lot of it has to do with water bottle blows, which is like have a water bottle. I'll usually use a metal straw, standard diameter, and I start off by doing like intervallic blows of like 25 seconds, 35, and 45. So I, take a breath and I blow into the water bottle for 25 seconds. I take a break, do 35 seconds, and then do 45. And then after that, I do pretty much all of my scale warm ups. Like I do ascending major scale and then descending major scales. I do that all through a straw and through a water bottle because it kind of acts as a resistor. Like when you're lifting weights and you're holding that and you're building strength in your arms. So then, later on when you go to pick up something heavy, it feels lighter. It's a similar thing, but for your lungs. It really builds your capacity. It builds your endurance, which is why I specifically do it, especially before a live show, because then I'm kind of ready to rip. And on this last Carcosa tour that I did, we did with Archspire, Aborted, and Alluvial. I probably did those 15-minute warm-ups for the first week and a bit, of the tour, and then after that I was warm. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing vocals every day, so it's not necessary for me to constantly do warm-ups. After that, it kind of becomes a little bit of overkill. So about a week and a half, and then I stop. If I'm really kind of feeling like I pushed a bit too hard during a live show or studio, I do a cool down, which is essentially the same kind of idea, but it's more just like I'm doing my water bottle blows and lip trills, all that stuff to more like massage my throat and just kind of calm down and chill. But yeah, that's pretty much been my standard routine for the past like 4 years or something like that. I actually don't even scream for warm-ups. I do all singing because I don't really like screaming for warm-up. I don't know why. Maybe
Yeah.
that's backwards, but yeah.
Gotcha. I've heard the water bottle trick from a lot, and I've implemented that. It definitely helps. And not just for metal vocalists, for singers also. Like I've heard a lot of singers will use that. Going to the gigs, they'll use the water bottle and blow and all that stuff, and it's
Yep.
really, really beneficial.
Yeah. What's your warm-up routine? I'm curious because
I
everyone's
use a
different.
little bit of the Zenna screaming. I've kind of made a hybrid. Back when I was really playing a lot and doing a lot of shows and stuff, I pretty much stuck to Zenna screaming. I kind of tweaked the Melissa Cross warm up, did most of it, and then now as I've got older and as I didn't do vocals for a long time, I do Zenna screaming into a little bit of like lip trills, the water bottle, and then that's about it. So it's about 15, 20-ish minutes, and now I'm done.
Can you do lip trills without like lifting your face? You do them without anything?
Yeah, just like that.
See, I have a really hard time with it. I don't know why. I maybe it's because I have so much facial hair or some shit. But like when I do lip trills, I usually always do the 2-finger technique so that it's easier to do.
Oh, nice.
But like, yeah, it could be cheating, but it kind of still does the same thing. I'm just
as long
not
as it
very
gets you
good
where
at
you need to
it.
go, it's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
They're helpful though. The lip trills, I wish I would have known about them back then, but kind of like we've talked about back, 10 plus years ago, that it was Zenna screaming and that was it. And before that, there was nothing. I mean, you were just figuring out as you go, and you can definitely tell vocalists and albums from that era to now how much more stuff has been learned and how much, tutorials and things are out there.
Yeah, well, it makes me think like, what if a guy like Alex Kohler had a vocal coach like we could have now back then? Like I feel like that poor guy has kind of wrecked his voice over time, unfortunately. But like those kind of boys at that time during that era would have benefited so much and probably increased the longevity of their career by having these kind of things to work on. And I think Alex Kohler was a great vocalist too, but it just sucks because you can tell like he kind of fried himself a little bit.
Yeah.
But all that takes is practicing and warming up and taking care of your throat.
I've heard so many horror stories of, people coughing up blood or just not able to do anything, blowing their throat out completely, just lots of things back then. I'm just like, man, it was rough back then. You guys have it way easier now if you're interested in doing vocals. It's so much more content and knowledge out there.
Yeah, big time.
Speaking of which, when we get a tutorial from you, when are you gonna do one?
I don't know, man.
Have you ever thought about it?
I'm not very. I only think about it because people ask about it so much, but I'm not really that good of a teacher. Like I can kind of describe what I'm doing, but not to the extent where I'm gonna tell you how to do it like the best and or most healthiest way. That's why I would lean more on like Mark from Cardivox Academy because his knowledge of the anatomy of your body whilst doing vocals far, trumps what I know. So I always push people in the directions of like people I would consider professionals.
Yeah.
I just have discovered over my life I'm not a very good teacher. That's kind of it. So I would really hate to like especially charge people. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I could, really do that and then be like explain things to people that don't make sense, but make sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I understand.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the vocal questions. What do you do for vocal care? I know you kind of already talked about cool downs.
Yeah, warm up, cool down, standard stuff. And then besides that, I don't know if I have it on me right now, but I do use a vocal mist. A lot of guys use vocal mist now. And honestly, it's just like a little throat.
I'm hearing a lot about vocal mist. I've never used it, but I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about it. You use it before and after you perform, or?
Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention that for my warm up. I usually use that right after I do my vocal warm-ups, and I use it for about 10 minutes. It has an auto timer on for 10 minutes, and then it shuts off after that, so it kind of like keeps track of it for you. But yeah, it just has like saline water solution that you put in, and it just mists, and it just really soothes your throat. And whether it's a placebo effect or not, it definitely does help. My gripe is that the company doesn't really work with vocalists. Like they don't really like want to like do sponsorships and stuff, which I really wish they would, because then it would like really push their product more. Because it does work and it is great. It's a little bit expensive to start. It's like 125 bucks to buy the whole pack, and you have to keep refilling the saline solution stuff. But like it rocks. It's super good. I use it in studio more than anywhere else.
Is this a hydration thing too with the saline, just kind of keeping your throat moist and?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it kind of lasts a bit longer than it would like drinking lukewarm water.
Yeah.
It kind of just helps add a little bit more longevity to your day. Or if you're starting to feel a little bit fatigued, like in between takes, like if you're doing multiple songs in a day, like just kind of chilling and huffing on it for a bit. And yeah, honestly, I think I've been using it for 3 years now or something like that. And I wouldn't go back. I love using it. It's like a tour essential thing for me.
Is it just a little device? Like how big of a device is it?
I wanna find it. I have it somewhere around here, but it's like it's like this big. Like it's
Okay.
really not that big, and it has a little tube on the end that you just stick your mouth on. It also has like a full face mask
Oh
version that you
wow.
have that you can literally put on and inhale through your nose. It doesn't seal super well, so it kind of falls off sometimes. So when I'm doing it, I sometimes just inhale from the mouthpiece through my nose to kind of like circulate through your palate. Like, if you've done a show before and like you might have a cold or something and your palate is really dry,
Yeah.
and then it kind of affects like how you do your highs or whatever. So I always use that, especially if I'm feeling under the weather. It definitely like makes it moist.
Okay. Nice. Have to check that. I've heard that from a couple people, so that's really cool. Do you do any teas or
You should
anything
check
like
it out.
that?
I haven't been doing teas, because I've already mentioned like I do that and I do a warm up. So if I'm doing tea too, my warm up has now become an hour long.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you did tea
I
like
kind of
after the fact. 'Cause I know some will have tea like as kind of like a not a cool down, but like the calm down period, just to soothe and.
yeah yeah. I do have throat coat that I use. I don't really like the taste of the throat coat because it's like a licorice flavor and it kind of tastes like shit in my opinion. But it does help. Especially like if you're doing a tour where you're not feeling super good after a set, it's usually a pretty good idea to maybe have some of that and chill your throat out a bit. But I drink a lot of tea at home just because I like tea, but it's never really been too much of a vocal thing for me. I kind of keep it a little bit separate. I would rather drink like room temperature water
Yeah.
more than anything, but tea definitely helps for sure. There's a reason why everybody does it.
Okay. Nice. Any other tips for vocalists on tour? Because tour can be very rough. It can be rough
Yeah.
on you. Any other tips for them to help your throat on tour?
If you're the vocalist of a band and you go to the merch table after your set,
Mm-hmm.
if you can, I would recommend not doing that, because you're doing a set and you're screaming, and then after your set, you're gonna go to your merch table and just yell over the crowd, you know, which is like obviously you should go to your merch table and say what up to fans and sell merch and shake hands and all that stuff. And I understand that sometimes you kind of have to sell merch, but I would recommend if you can just not talking or talking very quietly after the end of your set, because you got a whole month ahead of you, and if you're yelling every single night on top of your set, you're gonna burn out like just like that. But yeah, be kind to your voice for sure. Like it's pretty easy on tour to party and do all that stuff and go crazy, but if you can really like control it and you know treat your body like an instrument, which it is, like just be a little bit chill, like party on your off days, like do that kind of stuff. But I would be a lot more casual during a tour just to really protect yourself, because if you can't do vocals, if you do something to affect it, then your show is kind of ruined,
Yeah.
especially in deathcore. Like yeah, the instrumentals are cool, but at the end of the day, it would be breakdowns without vocals, which is kind of boring for everybody else. So you really want to make sure you're not missing anything.
Exactly. So I need to know, what do you think is harder, vocalist or a frontman? Because there is a difference between a frontman and being a vocalist. Which is harder to you?
Are you more referring to like being an entertainer and like
Yeah, yeah,
talking to a
yeah.
crowd and stuff like that?
Yeah, because you can stand up there and
Uh,
sing and just, just solely focus on that. But then there's also the, engaging with the audience and bringing them in and, giving them a good time and all that stuff on top of the music.
I think that's the hardest part. I mean, being like genuine and charismatic and being able to not necessarily control a crowd, but like converse with a crowd and
Yeah.
get them into it or keep them entertained. And a thing that I really focus on when, we do Carcosa shows is I don't want it to feel like every other deathcore band you've ever seen. Like, I'm not going to be like, what's up? We're fucking Carcosa. Let me see those horns and like, that kind of stuff. Like, it seems a little bit too on the nose for me and a little bit too cliche. So I always try and make it feel like you're all just homies and we're chilling and we're, we're doing a heavy set, but in between I'm going to talk about whatever I want. Like I'll talk about the calzone I ate earlier and kind of make it more like a relatable set, not so much like you're going to hear the next guy do the exact same thing. I kind of hate that. I think like the stereotypical frontman thing is like, it's really funny, but I don't want to be that,
Yeah.
But that's hard. Like being able to talk to a crowd is hard. And I have not always been able to do that. Like when I first started doing vocals in Galactic Pegasus, I still remember like those first few shows, like, I don't know how to talk to you people. I don't know how to get you going. I don't know what to say to like make you all go crazy. So you start to fall back on, what everybody else says. Like, I want to see a circle pit,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty damn hard, dude.
Those first shows are so awkward because everybody else, in between song stuff, they're tuning and, doing different things. And then you're just up there with the mic and you're like, shit, okay. So what do you guys want to talk about? Like, I have to.
And you got to be
space.
ready. You got to be ready for when shit goes wrong too.
Yeah.
Like one Carcosa tour we did with, it was an Angelmaker headliner, so I was pulling double duty. But like our drummer Travis, like he would have something wrong with his drums every single show. So I knew every night there was going to be 10 minutes of the set where I just had to talk about something, like just make some shit up. And in that, I kind of got better at it, I guess. It's like improv. You're just like, I would just look around the room and look at people and then decide on things to talk about. But like, not everybody has that. It's hard to like think of stuff on the spot and not say like crazy shit.
I mean, especially all the lights and people staring at you, like you can't really hide behind anything. You have to. It's sink or swim pretty much up there.
You're the one with the microphone.
How was double duty? I bet that was pretty rough on you.
A lot of people ask me about that on the tour, and they're, we're like, oh, it must be crazy. You must be tired and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, like the difference between the two sets is so astronomically like, different because I'm playing guitar in one band, so I'm not doing vocals. In the other band, I'm doing solely vocals, and that's it. So two different things is great. If I was doing two sets of vocals, I would be fucked. Like I would be dead.
Yeah.
That would be too much. But doing two different things definitely helped. It was more just like I had no time. Like throughout the day, I had no time. I had to set up, all the Angelmaker stuff, and then we had to set up all the Carcosa stuff. And I'd have a very short window to get food, and then we were second every night, so I'd have to be ready and early, do our set, and then I have to wait for two bands, and then I do an hour and 10 headlining set. So my time was just like gone.
Sweaty and then dry off and then get sweaty again, pretty much.
Yeah, I just didn't change. I just wore the same clothes.
Put you on the spot. Which one do you like more, guitar or vocals? Which one do you prefer?
I mean, this is another question I get asked, and I still don't really have like a concrete answer because sometimes it changes. Like, I think playing guitar is a lot less pressure. I feel very comfortable playing guitar, like especially with the Angelmaker stuff. I just like, I know it like the back of my hand, so I'm never really worried about that. And even from like the technical side of things, like I never worry about like my gear crapping out or our rig fucking up because I know how, tight and ready to go it is. Vocally it's just fickle, man. Like, I don't know, one day you might wake up and you don't have any sinuses.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just have to make it work. So like vocals is definitely a lot more stressful, I'll say. I wouldn't say I favor one or the other, but one comes with more stress than the other.
Yeah. For sure. So back on the frontman thing, is there a frontman that stands out to you as like you're like, what? That's a really good frontman as far as like commanding the crowd, like you said, just fills in dead air, handles it great.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vincent from the Acacia Strain is really good now. I think he's gotten better over time and has aged a lot better. Eddie from Suicide Silence is really good. Well, I mean, one of my favorites is my local boys in Archspire. Like Ollie is incredible. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Archspire before, but it's like 50% comedy and 50% music. Like the way that that guy thinks and the way he comes up with stuff is pretty incredible, man. Like that's like an amazing skill in its own. So yeah, definitely him. Eddie from Suicide Silence is really good. Sven from Aborted is also really good. Awesome crowd interaction. He really gets them actually physically moving.
Yeah.
Like every single night he had people doing jumping jacks where like if I was at a show and the guy on stage made me do jumping jacks, I'd probably be like, nah, I don't feel like doing that shit. But the way he presents it, he just gets them going. So yeah, I don't know. I've been lucky to tour some really good ones. Kevin Muller from Alluvial is really good. He's got his own vibe. He's got that, you know, that New York Jersey vibe to him, which
Yeah.
I really like. So yeah, there's a big list, dude. Will Ramos obviously is great. So long
Eddie
list.
surprised me. He's almost like a local band guy, or at least he was back when I met him, you know, years ago. Just he was it was All Shall Perish back then. He went in Suicide Silence, but he
Yeah.
just come up and he was just like everybody was chatting. He just jumped in the conversation like, "What's up, guys?" and just hanging out, super like local band dude, like homie, just hanging out and awesome,
Yep.
awesome guy, really, really cool.
Eddie is Eddie's kind of like our grandfather. I don't want to make him feel old, but like when we did the first tour I ever did in my life was Chaos and Carnage in 2023, I think it was. With Suicide Silence, Carnifex, Lorna Shore, Upon a Burning Body, Signs of the Swarm, us, and Distant. Like huge fucking tour. But like the way that the Suicide Silence guys treated us, the way that Eddie treated us was just so welcoming, and like it kind of felt like a passing down of the torch kind of moment. Like we are the original era of deathcore, but we love what the new era is doing, which is so different than how it used to be. And Eddie's just a great role model, I think, for deathcore, and I look up to him a lot. And he gives really good advice and has great stories. And that guy is, you know, he's had the biggest shoes to fill of all time, dude.
Yeah.
And Mitch Lucker, like, really tough guy to fill shoes. And you know, Suicide Silence has been through the ringer ever since then. Like, you know, they put out records that maybe people didn't really like, and they really dogged on them for it. But I still think that like Eddie was the right choice, especially live. He
Yeah.
fucking crushes, man. He's so good.
Deathcore, it's cool seeing deathcore make a resurgence too. It's definitely there was a time where deathcore necessarily wasn't the cool thing, I guess, to do for lack of better words, but now that's definitely coming back where you see more people into deathcore and wanting to be into deathcore, or make deathcore bands, or even label themselves as deathcore that maybe they were, you know, deathcore-ish, and then they transition and now they're coming back more to their roots, and it's cool to see it kind of come in full circle again.
I think is cool, especially for, you know, guys like us that grew up with that MySpace era, because we loved deathcore for what it was. And, you know, at that time, the industry was like, nah, this is dumb. Like, we don't get this. Like, breakdowns are stupid. And like the, you know, the traditional death metal crowd was like, nah, we're not even associating with this. And it was a lot more dog eat dog even between
Yeah.
deathcore bands back then, because everybody was trying to fight for a spot, you know? Everybody just wanted to be taken seriously. So those guys ran so we could walk, you know what I mean? And I love this new era, and I love that it's a lot more positive and a lot more open, you know?
Yeah. I've heard lots of stories of like kind of like you said, the competition back then where they didn't want to do tours because they wanted to be first on the bill. They wanted to be like the headliner, and they didn't want to be in support of the other band they were competing with, and not that they hated them, just they wanted to be the top dog essentially.
Yeah, which is so dumb to think about now, because like
The tours we could have had if they would have just, I mean, we would have had some
unbelievable
stupid tours. Just,
yeah, but we can luckily kind of get them now.
Yeah.
Like if those bands want to do those tours, like, you know, Suicide Silence touring with Carnifex, and you know, Whitechapel now touring with like Lorna Shore and stuff, like all that stuff is dope. I'm glad that that can happen now, because it's one, just cool for all of us, you know, deathcore kids, and 2, it's lucrative because the genre is now lucrative. So
Oh yeah.
just everybody eats, you know.
Do you miss the MySpace days of the top 8s and 10s and all that good stuff? And man,
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I do.
it
It's
was
like
the
a
Wild West back
nostalgic
then with
thought.
that.
It was. Dude, I used to post my own music on there years ago, like just as myself, just posting some trash shit. But like I love that era a lot, but I do like kind of like how Spotify works now as well. Like I use the Spotify DJ. It's like that AI DJ, and it recommends so many sick bands now, and I'm just finding
Right.
all these new bands through it, and it kind of feels like MySpace in a way. And yeah, I'm loving it, man. I'm loving every era that we're in.
It's crazy how much the music industry has changed from the MySpace days to now with more of the streaming and the Spotify and all that. It's how do you
Yeah,
like it in comparison? Because back then it was more record sales. You know, pretty much you would go work on an album, tour for the album, you know, rinse repeat over and over again. Now it's
yeah,
you're releasing stuff on Spotify and streaming and touring, but I mean it's a little different how it works now.
yeah. I think it's more of just like a general convenience for the consumer, which is good because it can, quadruple your numbers as compared to back in the day where, people would buy physical merchandise, which is great, like buying CDs and all that stuff. And now that's kind of a commodity of it,
Yeah.
which I think is cool. And it also drives the collector market, which I like as well. I think that's kind of cool as a collector myself, and clearly you are too. I think that that in itself is cool. Um, like streaming is what it is. You make a little bit less, but I think in making less, you still manage to reach more people because of how accessible Spotify is now and all those streaming services. Like, even just like coming down to, I only have to have this now.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to have an iPod and a phone and have two things, it's all in one spot, which as a consumer, I like. Um, I'm okay with it, man. Like I don't really have too many gripes with streaming and, all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people make a big stink about it, but I'm kind of okay with it. I think it just potentially reaches more people than we would have before,
Yeah.
Maybe people that don't even listen to metal, like
Yeah.
they just stumble across it. It just somehow manages to come in front of them and then they're like, all right, I like this now.
It's crazy how the internet and like the viral trend is now too, because bands can just go from like a good band, a known band, to just viral and blow up overnight, and just numbers skyrocket. We've seen
Yeah.
Lorna Shore, Sleep Token, different bands, and just it's insane watching like the monthly listeners and stuff.
It's nuts, yeah, and it's good for those bands too. And I've benefited from that as well, just from TikTok during COVID and all that kind of stuff. Like, it definitely is amazing when that kind of stuff happens. The hard part is maintaining it.
Yeah.
Like, once you get that hype, what do you do next? And also, like, the separation between, like, if your video was viral because it's a meme, how do you get people to take you seriously now? That's kind of the hard part. That's the line that you always have to toe. So like that stuff is awesome, but like there's no right or wrong way to maintain it. You just kind of have to see what happens.
Yeah. You were talking about the physical media and stuff. I got made fun of by old bandmates because they said something about a band, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I still have the CD," and like I broke out CDs and even old shirts. I collected the old, different band shirts from tours and whatever, just as like
Yeah.
keepsakes, And they're like, "Why do you still have it?" I was like, "What? Why wouldn't I have this?" And I just have like all these old
Yeah.
CDs and stuff. I'm like, "Dude, this is memories. I love this stuff."
Yeah. I mean, that's for you, dude. Like
Yeah,
that's like for you to kind of like put a timeline on your life of what you were listening to, and like what having a physical item from a band is like so cool. Like I never thought I would become this guy because I kind of swore that I wouldn't, but I started collecting vinyl, which I was like trying not to do because of my personality. I just love collecting stuff. But I got one and I was like, fuck, man, I'm going to do this a lot now. And now I'm trying to find like these vinyls from like, old bands that I listen to and stuff. Like, I just like the feeling I get to have the physical item in my hand. So like I totally get it. And it's definitely the way with merchandise too. Like I have that issue where I collect a lot of shirts, and I've still kept like so many from that era. Like I still have my Bang Your Head, Raise the Dead, like turquoise Whitechapel shirt that I
Yeah.
bought from MySpace, you know, like I keep all that stuff because that was a time where I was just getting into this, and I like to remember that shit. I think it's cool. I don't even know if I'll sell it, you know, ever. I think I'll just keep it, but
Yeah, my wife
I
made
think
fun
it's
of me.
dope.
We were going through stuff, and I started finding the old band shirts, and I was like putting them away in the storage, and she was like, "Why?" I was like, "Just leave me alone. This is my stuff. You know, we're keeping it."
Let me have this.
Yeah, old Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza with the Bass Pro Shop shirt.
Uh-huh.
Just all that old good stuff. I love it. And there was something about buying a new CD and opening it and that like fresh smell. You're like when you're about to listen to a new record for the first time. That nostalgia
Yeah.
every time. Just yeah.
You like those jewel cases? Do you prefer jewel cases
Yeah.
over the slips?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I think they're way better.
Oh yeah. All right, let's get back to vocal stuff. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit. Let's go to lyrics. Where do you pull from lyrics? So this, when I ask this, there's usually it's kind of like a two answer. Usually it's do you pull from personal experience? Do you do conceptual stuff, or do you kind of blend them and do like a hybrid of both, kind of mixing the worlds, or what do you do usually?
Yeah. So Carcosa is it's I won't say it's strange, but it's kind of different. I approach things differently depend on the purpose of the song. So like for singles, I usually always write them about a specific topic. Like Vermin, for example, is all about Kill Bill. The entire song is just written about Kill Bill. And it's one of my favorite movies. I was just like, easy inspiration. I can write about this, no problem. And Nihilist is about a obscure Star Wars character I really like, so I wrote it about that. So it's more of just like things I'm passionate about, I find easy to write about. So I would choose that for singles. For a full record, I usually always pull from personal experience. Like our, first EP, Absent, is a concept record about dealing with a friend that, was going through a really dark time and ends up committing suicide because a thing that was very prominent in all of our lives. Like everybody in Carcosa has dealt with a similar situation. So it felt necessary and cathartic to write a concept record about that to kind of like say goodbye to that in that era and become okay with everything. And there's merits to both. Like I love writing conceptual stuff. It's a lot more difficult, but I really like doing it. And then I also like kind of just having fun and writing about whatever I want, a little bit more lighthearted, not as heavy. Like we're putting out a new song next week called Righteous Man. And I'm on a Tarantino kick again. I wrote the whole song about Pulp Fiction, and the video will reflect that, and it'll make a lot of sense. But all of the lyrics in that song are dialogue from the movie. I didn't even necessarily like write lyrics. I pretty much just pulled dialogue from the movie and fit it into the song. It was just kind of an experiment I wanted to try. And I think it turned out pretty cool. You'll have to let me know when you hear the song.
I'm excited. Can you say when it's
Yeah.
dropping? Are you allowed to give a date, or are we just next week? I know is when.
What day is it today? I think we are dropping it on the 21st.
21st. Okay, awesome. So
Yeah,
about a
so
week
keep your eye out for that.
Nice. I
The
can't wait. I'm
video
excited.
is crazy.
So you're dropping video, everything on same day. Oh yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction's a great
Yeah.
movie.
Uh-huh.
That's gonna be.
I'm a big Tarantino guy.
So how hard was it to fit lines from the movie, just to make them flow? Like, I'm assuming you went the
Really
normal
hard.
route with like, well, I say normal route. There is no normal route, but like you did the pattern in your head first, kind of like listening to the music, and then you're like, okay, now I can try to fit this line in this part and so forth.
Yeah. Because I'm a big fucking nerd, I kind of memorized a lot of the dialogue from the movie. So I kind of had a vision in my head of like what parts would really work well with what parts of the song. Like the way I've been writing, even from instrumentally to vocally, I write chorus first. So I wrote the chorus first instrumentally, and then I wrote the lyrics as well, and then kind of worked outwards from there. So it made it easy to like pick parts from the movie and kind of like puzzle them together. And it was pretty difficult to do the patterns, and obviously not a lot of the lines rhyme either. So trying to figure out flow for cadence and like what lines flow into the next was more difficult for sure, but I think it worked out.
So
Maybe.
why do you go chorus? Just out of curiosity, why do you start with the chorus? What is your reason for that?
Usually, well, especially for Carcosa, we kind of heavily rely on standard song structure. So like verse, chorus, bridge, all that kind of stuff. And generally, the way that modern music is right now is you're building to your chorus. Like your chorus is the crux of the song. It's what you kind of want everyone to remember more than anything, right? That's where you're working up to. So I try and make it as polished as I physically can, because once that chorus is done, I have a really good idea of what the verse is going to sound like. I know like the direction of where it's going to go. I know what the bridge is going to sound like. So that's kind of why I do it that way.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of guitar writing in Carcosa? Do you help or throw riffs or anything?
Yep. I write full songs in Carcosa mostly.
Nice.
Like Vermin, I wrote fully. Vanta Black, a lot of songs that I wrote on my own. The kind of mission statement we had when we started Carcosa is that we would write almost everything in the same room together, which in the beginning was easy because, you know, we were all there and all that kind of stuff. And we did. It was a collaborative effort between me, Cooper, and Andrew. And a lot of songs are a three collaborative effort, or it's me and Cooper, or it's me and Andrew, that kind of stuff. And then COVID happened, and it made it a little bit more difficult to get together, especially in Vancouver, because Canada had really strong restrictions. So we kind of had to go back to the way we used to write, which was writing on our own. So I kind of started just pumping out songs by myself. And I like it. Like I said, it gives me a really good vision of what to do with vocals because I'm writing the song with vocals in mind. So yeah, that's kind of that. I write guitar for Angelmaker, and I have to separate the way I write between the two bands because I want them both to sound sonically different. But I think, I worked pretty hard on like creating a sound for Carcosa, as Bana and Cooper also did. So it's kind of an all-encompassing kind of thing.
When do you have time for anything? That's my next question, because you are between touring musician, multiple bands, content creator. Do you do your own editing also, as far as like content?
Yeah, I do.
When do
My
you have
editing
time
isn't
to
that
do
great.
anything?
I don't know. I kind of make time for stuff. Like it's my full-time job now, right? Like I don't work another job, which luckily allows me to do this full time and give me more time to do that. I mean, it definitely takes up a lot of my time, but I kind of started to work on my time management a little bit better, as to where like if I have work to do, I'm gonna start work at probably like 12 o'clock in the day, and then I'll finish at 6 o'clock, and I kind of do a hard six, because if I don't stop at 6, I will just keep working.
Yeah.
And I find doing that is really important. And then giving yourself breaks too is really important for me. Like Sundays I don't work or whatever, right? But I just like to be busy. I don't like doing nothing. I like having a sense of direction, and like I want both of the bands that I'm in to grow and be as big as they can possibly be, and I want all my guys to be able to do this as full-time work. So like any extra work I can put into both, and like whatever time that, elapses, it's usually worth it. But yeah, it doesn't really burn me out too much.
I
I can
can see
kind
the
of hit a wall.
hard stop, because I'm really bad about that. You'll get working on something. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get to this point and stop, and then you're like, well, I can knock this out too, and then and then hours lapse by, and
Yeah, like the way I work, especially for writing, like if I'm writing a song, I don't usually take like more than a day to write a song. Like the song is done in the day. I sit down and I finish it. I don't do 2 days, it gets done. So that's a part of my efficiency as well. It's like if I'm writing, it gets done in days. I don't spread it over a week. Otherwise, things would probably take a lot longer,
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask, and I was kind of saving this, but it feels like a good transition. Content creation, musician. What are the pros and cons of this? Because you do both. You do them at a high level. And do you feel like this is kind of going to be, I guess, for lack of better words, the meta going forward for musicians, full-time musicians, stuff like that? Because we see more and more doing that, where they're, live streaming, they're making YouTube content, they're doing whatever, tutorials, covers, all that stuff as like supplement income.
It's just, yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to do this work full time, I feel like you kind of have to do that. You don't have to like be a TikTok guy necessarily. You can do whatever you want. You find your niche and you kind of hammer in on it, right? Like I still do covers, and I always will do covers because I like doing them personally, and it seems as though other people like them as well, and it keeps me busy, and it generates most of my numbers, like followers and all that kind of stuff. So I still keep that going, but I'm always constantly balancing, being in a band, an artist, and also doing content just, for doing it for fun. And I try to never blur the lines too much.
Yeah.
I try and make everything a little bit separate. I want people to know that like the goofy stuff and all that shit is different from what I do in Carcosa. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of separating both. But like a lot of guys that I know that I tour with or, are in bands, they all do both for supplement income. Like, the more you get seen, the more companies want to work with you and like, do advertisement and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like in Canada, we cannot monetize Instagram, we can't monetize TikTok, none of that stuff. So I don't make money off Instagram, like
Wow.
off of views. I have to work with advertisers to get any kind of supplement income, or like I'm working with, instruments and gear that I'm endorsed by. Like that's where my income comes from. I can't personally rely on views on TikTok or Instagram because it
What
doesn't
about
do anything
YouTube?
for me.
Like as far as YouTube, like ad revenue and stuff,
You,
can you get that?
YouTube, you can.
Okay.
YouTube, you can. It's probably about the only one. And for whatever reason, like Facebook Reels, you can. I don't know why that makes sense since they own Instagram, but
Yeah. That's kind of
whatever.
dumb.
But yeah, in Canada, we can't do that. So in the US, you guys are very lucky that you can make money off Instagram and all that stuff. And I wish that I could because I would, be pretty good
Yeah.
right now. But yeah, it's like a hustle. But a lot of guys that I know really focus on that, on making their Instagram their kind of main thing and like selling whatever they got to sell or starting shirt brands and all that kind of stuff. You kind of have to have both if you want to stick around and do it as a job.
Yeah.
Or unless you're in a massive band and you just make crazy money, but it's one or the other.
I mean, back in the day before, I guess the real like internet social media explosion, it was tour, and then a lot of people would just get side jobs for month, two, couple,
Yeah.
whatever they could, just to make money to pay for tour, and then go back on tour and just road warrior.
Yeah. Just that cycle, right?
Yeah. So what are the pros and cons of doing this as far as like both? Do you find it hard at all? Because I mean, you're doing a lot. I know you enjoy the cover, so I guess that part is probably not hard at all because you get to pick and choose what you do. But I mean, as far as a musician, you're writing in two bands and you're also creating content. Like that's your brain's on overload there. It's working nonstop.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I guess I have good discipline with my brain where like if I'm like today I'm doing content shit and then I just do it and I don't think about other stuff.
So you break up your
Whereas
days
like
like
if
this is a content day. This is work on Angelmaker. This is Carcosa day kind of stuff.
oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
especially if we have stuff coming up or if like we're gearing towards like we're doing an EP or we're doing an album or whatever, like I usually have sanctioned time where I work on that stuff. And like content creation will depend on like if I'm working with an advertiser, like if I'm working with like a microphone company and they need videos done and that's like a part of our agreement, I'll work on those. So yeah, it just kind of becomes like a job, like I
Yeah.
build a schedule and I'm like, I have to get this done on this day, or I have vocal features I need to do that I get done in a day or whatever. Like I just like am very strict about like this is what I'm doing today and this is what I'm doing the next day. That really starts to simplify it. If I started mixing them throughout days, it would probably become a lot more difficult. And I'm sure like some people have a really hard time being like, I need to make content so that people see me, but I also want to write music. And I can see how that would be really difficult for people. And I know that it is. But I don't know. My brain is dumb, I guess. It can
Very good
split
at
in half.
compartmentalizing. It looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Do you guys do any kind of streams or anything on tour? Because I know you and Andrew both are big content guys. So do you guys like play your sets live? Because I know I've seen more and more bands doing that where they set up like a travel pack and they'll stream the set from whatever city and stuff like that. Have you guys done any of that, or have you thought about doing that?
Yeah, when usually when we play Toronto or Montreal, our manager, Brad Zordreger, is there and he usually streams our whole set. Which is pretty fun. I like that we can do that. But we don't do it too often, especially we don't do it like professionally because it's a lot of work to make that happen.
Yeah.
But we have filmed a lot of our sets. Like we've worked with professional crews. Those videos just haven't come out yet. Like with Angelmaker, we just filmed our last set of our last tour that we just did, and we plan on like, you know, making it into a DVD, like a physical DVD,
that's
you know,
sick.
so like for collectors like us, we
That's
can
awesome.
get pumped about that shit.
Did you
But yeah,
collect a lot
like
of DVDs? Kind of pivoting. Were you into band DVDs?
band DVDs, yes, I actually have some back there.
That's
I have Lamb of God, Philadelphia, and then the big one that I watched all the time was Set the World Ablaze by Killswitch
yes,
Engage.
great one.
Live at the Palladium, which I was super pumped when we got to play the Palladium. We did it on the Lorna Shore Pain Remains tour, and it was sold out, and it was fucking crazy. I was just nerding out because I was just like looking at the crown moldings up the side, and I was like, oh, I remember that from the DVD and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love that shit, man. I think it's cool. So if we ever get the opportunity or the timing is right, we usually pull the trigger on it because it's fun for us to have too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably about that.
I was a big band DVD nerd. Still, that's
Yeah.
part of the reason I started this series is just because I was always loved stuff like this, like the behind the scenes, watching like the tour, the stories, listening to the band, how they act off stage, or you know all that. And I always loved stuff like that and seeing all of it. And Killswitch was definitely one that was on repeat a lot for me. Philadelphia.
Yep.
Was it Walk With Me in Hell? I think was the next. Was that the follow up Lamb of God?
I believe so, yeah.
Unearth, Parkway Drive, all those. The Black Dahlia Murder. I can't think of what it was called, but that one, I can't tell you how many times I woke up where I would just fall asleep at night watching the Black Dahlia DVD, and it would be that song on repeat on loop.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I mean, especially in Angelmaker, we're huge Black Dahlia fans, and like we've probably memorized that DVD, like every
So
part
good.
of it, you know, like that was kind of like when you were younger, that's like what made you want to tour, was watching those guys rip it up and have fun, you know, like that shit. And then also watching the Parkway Drive DVDs because like they were so crazy, like the amount of travel that they were doing in between touring and stuff, like seeing the world. And there's actually a really good Architects one where they do a world tour, and at the time you don't know, but it's Tom's like last kind of kick at the can doing a world tour.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool that they did it, and you get to see all these crazy places. They played like some real small ass shit venues somewhere like in India or whatever, like, or they even play like closer in the interior of BC, like where I grew up. And it's a really cool documentary. I recommend watching it if you haven't seen it before.
I always like seeing they would play like these massive shows. You know, you would just see like the wildest crowds, and then you would see kind of like you said these shithole venues where there was like you know maybe 20, 30 kids, and the venue looked awful, like it was going to fall apart, but they still throwing down, having a blast, and like it made you want to tour more.
Those are the best shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna go back to lyrics. I kind of detoured us a bit. Do you have a lyricist you look up to? Is there one that sticks out to you that you're like, man, how they write is just awesome and it definitely inspires you, or even a role model?
I think my first like obsession with a vocalist and what they did was Vincent from the Acacia Strain. Like I'm a big Acacia Strain guy. Like I started in the Wormwood era and then I kind of went back, but Wormwood was like the real, like, I want to do everything that this album does. Like I want to sound like this sonically. I want to play guitar like this. I want to do vocals like this and write lyrics like this. The lyrics on that record are fucking awesome. They're super catchy. You can hear everything he's saying. Like, he's very articulate on record. Back in the day when they performed live, he wasn't super articulate. Now he is. Like, he was definitely one of them. Brendan from Counterparts is another one. He's just, like, so descriptive about what he's saying. And his lyrics tell a story. And I always find, like, if you can write a story that's so cohesive and it flows and it rhymes, I think that's like the telltale sign of a really good lyricist. So those are probably my big two.
Okay.
They're just guys that I look up to in terms of benchmark lyricists, you know?
Okay. Nice. Do you have a favorite Acacia Strain song?
Yeah. I like Bay of Pigs a lot. Bay of Pigs is dope. And I also like Time and Death and God, which is the second to last song off of Death is the Only Mortal, which I think that record kind of gets looked over a little bit. But like that record is like it's the Acacia Strain's take on Meshuggah. You could tell that like DL was listening to a lot of Meshuggah at the time, and I think it sounds sonically that way. And like Vincent is very bitter and just pissed on that album and starts to talk about like the concept of reality and whether reality is real and all this really trippy shit. And yeah, I mean, Time and Death and God encapsulates all of that for me, I think.
Okay. So I wanna go back just a little bit. I need to know. It's kind of bugging me. You brought up Nihilus. What
Yeah.
Star Wars character were you talking about? I need to know.
Nihilus.
Yeah.
Darth Nihilus.
Oh, well, okay, I'm an idiot. Okay, wow.
He's this Sith Lord character from the Knights of the Old Republic 2 game. And I just think he's badass as fuck because it's such an easy thing to write about. Like, he's this like Sith that was born from like the wound in the Force, and he is just this like ghostly figure that just resides within this robe and this mask, and he consumes planets. Like, he consumes the life force of them and drains them. And I think I'm like, that's the most badass shit of all time, you know? So I decided to write a whole song about it.
What's the best Star Wars game? Do you have a favorite?
I think it depends on what kind of experience you want for Star Wars. Like, if you're into like, you know, you just want to live in the world and shoot some guns and have a lightsaber, then you should play Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original one from 2005. The newer one is also really good, and it's even more of a sandbox. If you're into more of like a really lore heavy, like you want to really get into the guts of a story, then you should play the first Knights of the Old Republic. It's an RPG, but it's got to be unequivocally one of the best. Someone said in the chat that I can see Bounty Hunter. They just released a remaster of Star Wars Bounty Hunter where you play as Jango Fett. It's fucking dope. So yeah, I could go on, man. I'm such a Star Wars dork.
Dude, that's awesome. Did you like the Force Awakens games at all?
Force Awakens games.
What had I'm trying to think of his name. Sam Witwer, I think.
Sam Witwer?
Yeah. He was like Vader's apprentice in it.
Oh, you're talking about The Force Unleashed.
Unleashed, yeah. I don't know why I said Awaken. My fault. I'm blurring the movies and the games together really bad right now.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, dude, The Force Unleashed is sick. The first game is fucking awesome. Like, it's such a cool concept for a story, like Secret Apprentice. And that's a good game too if you just want to like beat the shit out of stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Like, you got crazy force lightning, like sick lightsabers that you can customize and all that kind of stuff. The second game, like story-wise, isn't as strong, but the gameplay I think is even better, and the game looks better. But yeah, I highly recommend both of those games to anybody that just wants to like have fun with lightsabers, you know.
Great. I remember the first one. I liked the first one a lot. I played it back in the day. That game's, I mean, how old now? What, 17 years? 15 years? It's older.
Yeah, I
It'd be
can't remember what era.
360? Xbox 360 era, probably?
Yeah, probably 360. And it came up for like the Wii and stuff, and you used the Wiimote and shit. So yeah, it would have been around that time, I guess. Damn, it's a long time ago. I feel old now.
Dude, I'm old, so I'm right there with you. The Old Republic, is that the one that's done by the people that did Mass Effect, or am I wrong?
That's
BioWare?
The new.
Is that right?
Yeah. So BioWare did the original ones, and Obsidian, that was the original one as well. That did the first two, and then they made a new one with EA that BioWare did. That's just called the Old Republic. That came out in 2011. Those are good too. I like that game a lot, and it's still active right now. There's tons of people still playing that game. It's definitely different. It's way bigger. It's a massive fucking game, and you can play online with other people. But the original two are just like really solid games.
Are you a big gamer?
Yeah, I consider myself to be one now.
What are you playing right now?
Right now, because I've never played Fallout, I decided to play Fallout.
Did you watch the show first? Did that help
haven't.
push? What? Oh wow! So you weren't part of the trend because their numbers went nuts after the show.
Oh, I believe it. I'm excited to watch the show because I think it's going to be sick. What's the name? Walton Goggins? Is that the main
fantastic.
actor? Also a great Tarantino actor too. He's in a few Tarantino movies. But no, I haven't seen the show yet. I literally wanted to play the game for two reasons. The first reason being our front of house guy that we had on a tour, his name is Steven Dion. He's the front of house guy for Body Snatcher. He's a huge Fallout guy. He loves it. He plays it constantly. He had a Switch and he was playing it, and he talked it up so much. I was like, "Fuck, man, I want to play it now." And then I kind of just like finally beat Skyrim, and I love Skyrim to death. And I know it's the same studio, so I was like, I want to play another game that's like Skyrim that isn't. So that's kind of why I'm doing it. I'm starting with Fallout 3, and then I'm moving on to New Vegas. So
Nice. A lot of people think New Vegas is one of the best, if not the best. I hear great things about New Vegas. I actually never played New Vegas, so I'm probably gonna catch a lot of shit for that.
I haven't either.
I have it, so I got to get to it. It's on my list.
Yeah.
It's on my backlog, which keeps growing because I've been a gamer for most of my life, you know, since I was little. So the backlog is never ending. All right.
Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it kind of froze here. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Are we good?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So let's get back to lyrics. Do you have a favorite lyric? And this is a bit of a tough question. It can be from another band. It can be your own lyric. It can be one of both. However you would like to approach this and what you would like to give us.
So I'm going to reference the two guys that I kind of mentioned, Brendan and Vincent. For Vincent, it would be from that song, Time and Death and God. The line is, I wear a watch even though I don't believe in time. The idea is false, just like the rest of the ones in your mind. I like that a lot. I feel like it's very Elizabethan and poetic, but it has like this like just like existential dread added on top of it. And that's like the kind of shit that I really like questioning reality. Is time real? Like, are we real? You know, what do I see in my mind? Is it what everybody else sees? Like, I kind of like that questioning of reality, and I thought that line like kind of set it up really nice. And then for Counterparts, like Counterparts lyrics are always like very tragically sad, and like the use of imagery that he uses is very inspiring. So I think it's from the song Outlier, or I can't remember which one it is off of The Difference Between Hell and Home. But it's don't look for me in the clouds when I'm beneath you, nowhere to be found. It's just kind of like, it suits my nihilistic outview on life, where it's like, I'm not up there. That's not a thing. I'm just in the dirt, you know, returning to the earth kind of thing. So those are like two like really big ones, I would say, that I always think about.
Okay. Do you have any of your own that stick out that you're really proud of, or
that I'm proud of? There's a lot in the song Vanta Black is very much like another existential dread kind of like self-hating kind of song. Like, I think the verse line is, I worship the pain and I worship the guilt, so I dream of ending it all now, to depart from this world of pathetic, self-indulgent, sycophantic cunts.
Damn. Okay.
Nice. It's a pretty like, I only swear once on that record, and that's the only time that I do.
Use it impactfully.
But use it like poignantly, you know, like that's like when it's used. That's kind of a line that I always think about of mine, where I'm like, shit, I kind of like got a little angry on that one.
Is that like a rule of yours with like, 'cause some bands just, you know, they throw it everywhere. I mean, there's fucks and everything, and like every other line. Do you kind of use it just more of like an impact? Like, if I'm going to swear, I'm proving a point. I'm really pissed off, or I'm really passionate about this.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't know. This is just my general view of how I feel like lyricists should approach stuff, is like, write what you want to say, you know, like, use all of the words that you have in your vocabulary to make sense of what you're saying. And like, if saying fuck or shit or swearing or any of that stuff like accentuates your points or adds to it, then for sure. But if it's just because you can't think of a word, I think it's a little bit lazy writing. So I try and make sense of it. Like, if I'm going to use a word like that, I want it to make sense conceptually with the song. For the new song that we're putting out, it just says fucking it a lot, because it's the Righteous Man, and they swear all the time in Tarantino films. So it's kind of unavoidable, right?
Yeah.
But that's probably kind of where I'm at with that.
Okay. What's a good segue into tips for new songwriters, as far as like lyrically, rhythmic pattern, cadence, all that flow, everything? Do you have any tips for everybody?
I would say there's nothing wrong with drawing inspiration from artists that you like. And if there's a song that you really like, I would recommend just getting into the guts of it, studying the song and why you like it, whether it's a lyrical thing, whether it's song structure, whether it's tonally or, whatever, right? Like a method that we use in Carcosa sometimes if we have trouble trying to come up with a song or like structure is we find a song that we like and we put it into our DAW and maybe we'll change the tempo of it so it's not exactly the same. And we'll map out all of the parts with markers. And then we delete the song and we use that structure and write in between the blocks. So it's like building a puzzle, like you have all these pieces and now you can plug all of your parts in, like your chorus verse or your breakdown or whatever. So that's kind of like a good tool if you're stuck on something and you don't know what to do next. Yeah, lyrically it's hard. I think you just got to find inspiration from what things you're inspired by. Like for me personally, I don't find myself listening to music a lot to be inspired lyrically. I'll listen to podcasts or I'll watch movies or I'll play video games that have like a pretty strong story narrative. Stuff like that. Anything outside of metal because I don't want to be influenced by other metal bands so that I end up sounding exactly the same. I want to try and pull some kind of uniqueness out of it,
Yeah. Want to be your own thing, not this is what's popular and
Yeah,
I've been listening to this band. So it's very
exactly.
whatever influence, like you said. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Do you have a favorite song or part to perform vocally? And there's like a backside of this. And is there a part that you dread live that you're like, not saying it's a bad part or you're like, this part sucks, but just you're like, damn, I didn't think this through live. Or it's really fast. There's little breathing space. You're like, okay, let me get through this rough part. Do you have either of those parts?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think as vocalists, we've all made that mistake before.
Yeah.
Where we write a song that's just like just so much shit. And then you go to play it live and you're like, fuck, man, what am I
punching
doing?
things in here and there and like, oh yeah, this sounds so sick. And then you're like, shit, I didn't think about breathing here.
Yeah, that's why I do all those lung expansion warm-ups is so that I can do that stuff. But I always love playing Vermin. Like Vermin is just a really fun song to play and it's a really good like crowd song because it has breakdowns, it's got chanty parts, like the chorus is has a good feel to it. The end of the song is really dope. Like that song has always been like a really favorite one of mine. And we play it last in our set now, which I think is good. We used to play it earlier and now we play it last, and I think it's a really good closer. I'm trying to think of a difficult one. I mean, A Plague, the first song we put out, is pretty difficult. It has like kind of everything I do in that song, which can be really hard to replicate live. Like there's a lot of really fast spitty parts. There's a majority lows, but there's also highs, there's mids. So kind of keeping it consistent, being able to do all of those things live is really hard. So that's probably one where I fucked myself a bit.
What range do you think was the hardest for you to kind of master or get down? Gutturals, highs,
Lows.
lows? You think so?
Always lows. Yeah, especially because the way I do lows is different than I used to do it. I do a lot of tunnels now, which I wasn't really doing before. I was kind of primarily doing like fry lows, which I changed because I found I wasn't really getting the tonality or the power that I wanted. So I kind of learned how to do tunnels by covering Oceano because Adam Warren's like the tunnel king. Like his vocal style is fucking crazy. That's another guy who I would say is a pretty big influence. Specifically with his lows, I really try and emulate what he does. But that's kind of like where I wanted to improve was like getting that better and then doing it live, because doing lows live is a lot more taxing than doing highs. Highs are kind of like a fail safe for me live. Like I can pull them out no problem, but doing lows requires a lot more effort and like thought process.
Okay. All right. So I got a fun question for you, and I'm excited to hear what you have for us. This question, I always give everybody kind of a disclaimer. This question is inspired by Kyle from Body Snatcher.
Yeah.
And Adam D. Do you have a favorite call out? And kind of like you said, some people stick to the generic, straightforward, horns up, let's get this place moving, let's see a pit, the normal thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Or do you go the route of just random shit just said to throw people off? Because I always found that hilarious that they would just, the heaviest part of a song is coming up and they bring out something completely off the wall that you're like, what the hell did they just say? And then shit goes crazy. So do you have a favorite call out that you can think of?
That I can think of off the top of my head that I say frequently, because like I was saying, I kind of improv a lot of shit live.
Yeah, you don't want to
Like
script
when
it
I'm
because then it's
talking.
just, you want it to be organic. You want.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, Kyle is super good at it, by the way. Like he's
the stuff I've seen him say, I'm just like, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you saying? And a lot of times
Have you had him on this?
No. Hopefully soon though. We're talking about it, so I'm excited. This is literally his question that was inspired around him, and and Adam D's another one. Back we were talking about the DVD and stuff. Adam D. Back in the day, I was just like, why is he always? It's just off the wall shit that.
Yeah.
Every show it was something random.
I love it. That's probably where I get it from, honestly. But I think for me, what I usually always say, depending on like what the crowd is doing, like if we got some hardcore dancers in there that are spinning around, I'm usually like, turn yourself into a fucking helicopter and fly out of here, because everyone's always spinning around. And I just love seeing people spin like this, and it makes me laugh like a lot. Or I'll be like, I want to see a circle pit because it's my favorite shape, like stuff like that. Like, just like simple shit like that.
I love it. People, you see people start laughing and like just having fun with it. It's such a good, like, not icebreaker, but you know what I mean? Like it's an intense part of a song because it's right before a breakdown and shit's getting heavy, and then you say something stupid and people are laughing and just going crazy. It's wonderful.
That's what I want the whole set is. I want it to feel lighthearted, you know, because like the music is obviously heavy and you're gonna mosh and do whatever you want, but I also want you to have a good time and remember the show. So.
Exactly.
Turn into a helicopter and fuck off or whatever.
All right. So I can tell you're a sports fan, obviously, from behind you. Hockey fan.
You got it. Yeah.
So this next question is athletic inspired. So a lot of times athletes have superstitions, rituals they do before they play or get ready or whatever. Do you have anything like that for a pre-show or studio? It can be any kind of thing. This is always fun to ask, too, because I'm getting everything from, well, I just fist bump, such and such guitar player, to I do push-ups, I stretch a certain way, non-vocal related. Who is it? Somebody said something about in the studio they love, was it light blue Gatorade? Like, I have to drink a light blue Gatorade. Just random things, and it's kind of fun to hear kind of a weird question answer here.
It's a good question, and I wish that I had, like, a weird thing, like I have to tie my shoes a certain way or something.
Wear like a certain pair of socks. Who is it? Someone recently was talking about they wear the same show shoe and they have for years. I'm like, wow, okay. That's one.
I mean, I do that as well. I wear the same shoes pretty much every tour. And one thing I do now, which is kind of gross for some people, is I wear the same pair of socks for a whole tour. When I get the chance to wash them, I wash them. But a lot of it has to do with also I just don't want to do a bunch of laundry. Like I don't want to have to clean like 12 pairs of socks all the time. So I wear the same ones. They get pretty rough. But I don't really have like a superstition necessarily. I guess that's not really a part of my thing. Like, even when I grew up playing hockey, I was a goalie. I didn't have any superstitions then either. I kind of just like vibed. I think I'm just more quiet than anything. I just don't really talk that much before. And I'm okay with being alone before our set. Like if I don't see anybody until we go on stage, I'm okay with that.
Just kind of, I don't like in that place in your head.
Yeah, I'm just like ready to go. Like I don't really get nervous anymore. Depending on the show, I kind of just like I'm ready to do it. And like for Carcosa, we do our little hands in powwow thing.
Yeah.
Where I'll say something different every single night. We've been doing the same thing in Angelmaker too, which is fun. Yeah, that's kind of it. I kind of wish I had something crazy now where everyone thought I was weird, but I don't.
No, I mean the socks and stuff that works. That's kind of where I was going because I know different football players, there's certain socks they'll wear under like their other stuff and different pieces of gear, different like compression shorts. Like there's just all kinds of stuff that they're like they have to wear it on game day. Like this is my game day thing.
Dude, Sidney Crosby wears the same Under Armour and the same jock that he's worn his entire career.
Yeah,
like he doesn't change it. It's always the same, Like that kind of shit is cool.
Yeah. And if you took that away, it would just, it fucks up the whole psyche. Like the mental's gone there. Yeah.
A lot of it's mental. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not going to give you an edge. Like, it's just, like you said, it's
No.
a comfort, I guess, thing, if nothing else.
As long as your brain is happy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, I want to dive a little bit into content creation for you. It started around COVID, I'm guessing?
Doing content?
Yeah. When did, I know.
A little bit.
Okay. So, how did it begin? Did you and, because I see you and Andrew doing a lot together. How did all that kind of start?
So I always say this because Andrew is, he's my best friend, and I've learned so much from him over, knowing him. But I grew up in a smaller town in the interior BC, and after college I moved to Vancouver, and I was just trying to get to know people, and I ended up meeting Andrew and joining his band later on. But like, Andrew is full-time YouTuber, and he's been doing content since like, I don't know, 2011, 2010.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was already inspired by his stuff before I knew him. So then kind of getting to learn about like his process and how content creation works, like invigorated me to do it more. And then I just kind of started, for lack of a better term, I kind of just started copying what he was doing and like learning how he posts and when he would post and all that kind of stuff. So I started doing that probably like 2014 and kind of like trying to figure out a groove and what was my thing, what did I like to do. And it was covers. Like I would fully cover songs from scratch, or I would do heavy covers of pop songs. That was like the thing for a really long time.
Yeah.
That's kind of where Bana got his start, like Wrecking Ball and all those covers and shit. And that was kind of where I started doing that stuff as well. And obviously it's become more tailored and more condensed now because the attention spans are a lot shorter.
Yeah.
So where I would make a 3-minute cover, now I only do a minute or 30 seconds or whatever, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I started fully taking it like seriously as a job during COVID because it allowed me to do that. I had the time to do it. So, Bana and I were doing our breakdown callouts before COVID, and we were doing them in long form content on YouTube. The videos were like 6 minutes long. And the way that we used to do it was like we would pull words out of a hat or out of a bucket, and we would try and incorporate the word in a breakdown call out. And that was cool, and people kind of gave a shit about it. But then when TikTok became a thing during COVID, we started translating them to a TikTok format, and then everything changed after that. So then when we started working with companies like Liquid Death and like all this shit, I was like, okay, now this is a job. Like, we're doing this for real now. So I started to tailor my content more to be suited for companies and myself and all that kind of shit. So yeah, it's a bit of a grind, but I really liked it. I got to do a lot of cool things.
You talk about Liquid Death. I recently have got hooked on the Liquid Death train. It's bad. I've went down the rabbit hole, and like that's my new like addiction. I have like Liquid Death daily.
What are you drinking? What's your choice?
I rotate between the teas. I really like the teas. And I like the orange, the lime, all those. Or I'm grabbing new ones when I see them, and I'm trying them, and it's bad.
It's not called this anymore, but the Armless Palmer. Yeah. That one is fucking awesome.
Have you did you see they're selling for like crazy on eBay?
Oh yeah.
Because of, I guess they changed it to like Dead Billionaire or something now. I didn't know that, and that was actually the first one I bought, and it was called Armless Palmer, and I was like, oh, this is sick, whatever. So I got it and I drank it, and then I guess it was a couple weeks later, buddy was like, dude, you still have those? Because you could totally sell them for like crazy money. I was like, no, I drank them. Like, I didn't know. But yeah.
Dude, if you had a full case of those, it would go for so much.
But they were just like sitting in a store, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, dude.
It's heartbreaking.
Arnold Palmer, man, his estate sued them, right?
Yeah, I guess it was just like leftover, because I've seen Dead Billionaire everywhere, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I just thought it was two different variants. I didn't know any better.
Yeah, it's so petty, man. I love it.
I'm hooked on them though. Okay, awesome. So let's see, where do we go? I want to ask about the Lorna Shore cover, because when I heard Pain Remains, it was obviously, it's different. Definitely like I keep saying it's like a deathcore like ballad, like almost like a power ballad, the way the instrumentals are and everything, the feeling, the emotion in it, the lyrics. And I was just like, damn, this is really strong. you know, cleans would sound so good here. It was already something that I was kind of like, I could just hear it, but obviously Will is amazing and what he does is, you know, awesome. And then you come along and do all 3 songs clean. How was that? Because pretty damn impressive. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you said you didn't write the lyrics down, right? You were doing this on the cover from memory.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean,
what, 18, almost 20 minutes of just go
memorizing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to see them play every single night for a month. So I got to memorize like how the song went. But like when I put it in a DAW and I started to listen to it instrumentally and even with vocals and stuff, it kind of made me grow a bigger appreciation for the melodic writing and the cadence of the lyrics and lyrics in general. Honestly, they're just very, very well written. And fuck, man, that cover took so much work. Like I had already done the thing I did before was like the album compilation, and I did, you know, cleans for each song, which was hard in itself. But then everyone kept being like, you do a part 3, or do the, you know, the 3 parts. And there was just a lot of ask for it, and my video was doing well. So I was like, fuck, I should probably just do it just to see how I can do it and, you know, maybe get some views out of it too. And when I sat down and started doing it, I was like, fuck, this is going to be a lot of work. So like the way that I did it is I did all of the main vocals first, like the main clean line, and I set up what the melody should be. And it was really hard to try and do different melodies because all 3 parts are in the same key signature. So you only have like a limited amount of melody that you can really do, you know? So I was trying my best to make it all sound different. And it took a long time. That's like 18 minutes worth of stuff. And that for some bands is like half a record sometimes. Yeah. So I was like, shit, fully recording all of this stuff. And then I did all of the harmonies last. But it was fulfilling doing that. It felt like a really good like piece of work that I was like, I did this. This is kind of cool, you know? And I'm glad that people liked it. I personally like part 3 the most. I think part 3 sounds the coolest. But the chorus for part 2 is also really dope. Dancing Like Flames or whatever. But yeah, man, that was like, I'm glad that it worked out, because sometimes you can do like a lot of work into a video and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Which is usually how it goes. The more you care about it, the more people are like, yeah, whatever. But it seems like people really like it. So I feel very lucky that people do.
What about the Adele cover? How was that? Because I did not expect that. I remember that video popping up one day and I was like, wait, what is this? And I was like, okay.
It was fun, man. I love Adele to death. I always have. And I like challenging myself as well to try and do other stuff. Like I was saying, like the way to grow and learn is kind of to emulate other people and like cover their stuff and realize like why songs are good or what you can get away with doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I fucking love Adele. Let's cover this and see how it goes, you know? And that was kind of that. It was just like, I like people to think that I can't do things, and then I do it and they're like, oh shit, never mind.
What's the hardest cover you've done? Which one would you say is the most difficult?
Oh, anything Slaughter to Prevail. Because it's Alex, obviously, already difficult. And then I like to suffer and I learn them in Russian. So like I did Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga was really hard.
You're going the full 100% on it all the way.
Yep,
okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, this is how the song was written, and I think it's like not like a disservice, but I feel like doing it in the original language it's written in is like important and respectful of the original songwriter. So, you know, I wanted to try my best to do everything as phonetically correct as possible. Obviously there's shit that I missed, but yeah, I did that song, and I did a bit of Viking as well, and I did Demolisher when it came out. And yeah, dude, fucking hard shit. Like, you know, that was when too, like Alex's English wasn't as good, so a lot of the lyrics are kind of broken English for what he does write in English. And then all of the Russian stuff, I'm like, fuck, man, I haven't even tapped into this language at all, you know? Like I have more of like a Latin base when it comes to like Italian and French. So I'm like, this is so different. Recently I covered Gangman Style with Nick Nocturnal. That one was hard too, because like Korean, I don't fucking know. Like I don't know Korean, but like once again, I learned how to do it phonetically and then did the cover, but anything in a different language is always hard.
Okay. How was working with Nick?
Oh, it's great. I've been boys with Nick for a while. He's another Canadian guy that, you know, all of us Canadian content creators all know each other. You know, like Nick, Lauren Babick, you know, all those guys. And you know, Lauren being a girl and all. But like, yeah, Nick is great. I've always loved working with him. He's super easy to work with. Sometimes he just hits me up and he's like, "Hey, can you do this in like 2 days?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." And then I just kind of get it done, you know. But he's always easy to work with. I've never had issues with Nick, and that guy's worked his ass off to get to where he is, and I'm pretty proud of him, you know.
He deserves all the success for sure.
Hell yeah.
I wanted to ask another question about lyrics, kind of a follow up. So, do you write all the lyrics 100%, or do you have band members that kind of contribute? Like, hey, here's a line, here's maybe an idea for a song or anything, or is it just all on you?
So everything I write everything. The only time where I didn't write it in terms of what the concept was for our song Dissensus. Our song Dissensus was Cooper wrote the whole song, and I kind of rearranged it a little bit instrumentally, but he was like, I just watched this movie called Saint Maud, and I think it's a cool concept. You should watch the movie and write the song about it. So I was like, okay, and I watched the movie, and I did. It's a pretty. Have you seen the movie before, Saint Maud? It's like how do I describe it? It's like a psychological thriller, I guess you could say. It's not really a horror movie. And it's about like a born again Christian like hospice nurse that's taking care of this lady who has terminal cancer. And this hospice nurse, she has schizophrenia, and she believes that she can hear the voice of God in her head. And the voice of God in her head sounds like a demon. It speaks in Welsh, and it's super kind of freaky and kind of crazy. And the movie gets pretty ramped up near the end of it. So I didn't necessarily love the film. I didn't think it was sick, but the concept is so easy to write about. I was like, we're doing this, like, no problem. Like, schizophrenic, crazy, born again Christian, like, that's like a metal trope, you know, like easy enough, right? So that was a Cooper idea that I ran with. But besides that, everything has kind of just been what I wrote.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to think it's Stray that all the members write. They get in a room and which I always found, I don't know that I could do it. Just because I kind of get like you said, you get an idea and you just kind of go with it, you know?
Yeah.
But they'll get a concept or a song idea, and then they'll all just throw ideas at each other and like lines and stuff. And I thought it's a cool way for the whole band to be, but I don't know that I could do that.
I don't know if I could either, but like if somebody had something that they posed for a really good idea, I would use it.
Yeah.
Like I know, like for Invent Animate, like Trey, their original drummer who plays in Fit for a King now, he writes a lot of lyrics, which I think is cool. Like I always think it's cool that like there are specific bands where a particular person writes lyrics. Like Corpse Grinder never wrote lyrics and still hasn't written lyrics for Cannibal Corpse. Like he just does the vocals. Everybody else does the lyrics. Or like Meshuggah, like Thomas Hakey writes a lot of lyrics, you know, like if you have an idea, you got a good concept and you want to roll with it, like utilize your band members for their strengths, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's been times where they're like, "Hey, what about this line here?" I'm like, "I like that. Let's make it work. Let's figure it out." You know?
Yeah.
100%.
I don't have an ego in that sense. I
Yeah.
just want to use what sounds good, you know?
It's for the greater good of the song. Like in the end, the song is, you know, what's most important, not egos.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I've taken up a lot of your time, so I just have a little bit left for you. I wanted to ask, do you have any fun tour stories for us that you can say? Because I know there's definitely some that probably do not need to be brought to the light of day and shared with the world.
Yeah, some I can't say, but there's a lot. Let me try to think. I remember when we did the Lorna tour, Will had to wear a disguise quite often and to get around anywhere. So like we would just kind of like go out to lunch or dinner with him and he would be wearing this disguise so that people wouldn't bother him. I always thought, one, that kind of sucks, but two, it's also super funny. So it was always like fun every day, kind of walking around with this fucking dude wearing a wig and stuff. But there's one.
So he had a
story
full
where,
wig and everything.
Yeah, a wig, a blonde wig, hat,
awesome.
Sunglasses, all that shit. Like super funny. There's been a lot. I'll think of one. So like we were in Tampa, Florida, and we just went to this club called the Castle. I'm sure anybody in Florida knows what it's about. It's like a 3-story like goth rave club, and we were there on Halloween. It was crazy. So our vocalist Casey, he drove a lot and he still drives a lot. So he would sleep in the van, and he was like not really a partier. So he's like, hey, like you guys go do your thing. I'm gonna park at this Walmart, and you guys can Uber here, and I'll leave the doors open. You come in. We're like, all right. So we go to this place. We finish up around like 2 o'clock or something like that. And in our group chat, he sent us this image where he pin dropped where he was, but there was also like the blue icon that says where you actually are.
Yeah.
There was both of those things. So there was a pin drop at one Walmart, and then there was the location at another one. So we were like, which Walmart is it? So we kind of had to gamble and guess which one it was. So we went to this one, and I was pretty sober, but I had other people with me that were not sober. They were very drunk. They were very drunk and throwing up in this Uber.
Oh shit.
And I felt pretty bad for the dude, but the guy is from Tampa. He's like, this is nothing. And I'm like, all right, well, that's good. Don't have to pay the cleaning fee for this fucking Uber. But we would get to this Walmart, and we get there, and it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning at this point, and we're looking around, and we're like, oh shit, well, Casey's not here, so I guess we got to go to the next Walmart. So we call another Uber. We get in this Uber. We drive to the next Walmart. He's not there. At this point, it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Like we have to play a show and go somewhere the next day. So we're like tired. I got people sleeping on bark mulch. Like I got to pick them up and carry them and stuff. So like we were genuinely kind of panicking a bit because we were stuck in the middle of Tampa, Florida, being like, what the fuck are we going to do? Sleep on the grass? Like, how are we going to get this? Casey wouldn't wake up. He was asleep. So we were very lucky. Our homeboy, Adam Slice, he's the guitar tech for he works with Corpse Grinder in his new project. He does guitar teching for a lot of bands, Suicide Silence and stuff. Luckily, he was out, and he was like, hey, what are you guys doing? And I was like, we need your help, like please save us. And he picked us up at like 5:30 and took us to his house, and we slept on his floor for like 4 hours. And then we called Casey in the morning, like, where the fuck are you, dude? And he was so upset. Like he felt so bad for leaving us stranded, but luckily we found somewhere to go.
Damn, that's wild. Favorite bands to go on tour with? Do you have bands that you're like they're up there for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, Body Snatcher is probably one of my highest ones.
Oh god.
I'd love to do another tour with them again. They're just good, genuine people. I love Medina. I love Shope, Chris, Kyle, all those guys. I love them to death. And their front of house guy, Steven, is the best. Like, just a good, solid group of people that know their shit, especially about OG deathcore. Like, that's Kyle, he knows what's up. I love Distant. We've toured with Distant a few times now, and they're a bunch of good, silly boys that I love. Damn, dude, there's so many. Paleface is great, obviously. Aborted, they're like our dads as well. I call Ian my dad. Like I love them to death. Suicide Silence, obviously. There's like a whole list, dude. Like The Artist Murder was great. Like I didn't really know what to expect from them. I didn't really know what their vibe was going to be, but they were super welcoming and fun. Like we were on their bus quite a bit, and they were sharing their very expensive alcohol with us because they're booze snobs. So we would drink like these crazy beers and wines that they had. They just wanted to share with us, which I thought was really kind. Snuffed on Sight, bunch of great boys in that band. Super Pissed, Slam, like there hasn't really been a tour where I've toured with someone that I haven't liked. Like Signs of the Swarm, love them. That's a lot of bands, but I love
that helps
them all,
a lot with tour too. Whenever it's guys you generally want to be around and you enjoy hanging out with, because you're with them for like you said, a month at a time. You're there every day, hours on end.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot.
Touring's hard too, man. Like you want the vibes to be high, and if you're around good people, that's the best. Like, dude, Alluvial also, like I have to mention Alluvial because like Wes Hauk is a legend, but he's such a nice dude. Tim in that band, their bass player, Zach, their drummer, fucking Kev, all those guys. Like the vibes are always high,
Favorite place to play? Do you have a favorite place to play, or city, or venue, or is there one that sticks out that you're like super stoked for every time?
I've always loved Atlanta. Atlanta rocks. Playing Masquerade
That's
never
what I was
gets
about to say.
old.
Masquerade down there.
Yeah.
Masquerade's
Masquerade never
a
gets
popular
old.
one for a lot of people. I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely an iconic venue in the U.S. I really love New York. Anywhere we play in New York, I'm always down. I just love the city. We played Warsaw last time we were there, and it was in Brooklyn and fucking awesome. I loved Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville.
Okay.
That venue is dope. Super nice. Have you been there before?
I haven't been to Brooklyn Bowl. I'm from you may not remember, Muse era in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
It used to be Muse and Rocketown were like our two main ones, and the Muse is now, I keep telling everybody because a lot of people don't know, but it's now at Domino's, so it's kind of heartbreaking a little bit to see what it used to be. But that used to be like the main one that bands would come through as the Muse all the time, right in front of like a porn shop too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that was like the thing. Like bands would pull up, everybody would be hanging out, and they'd be like, "Oh, there's a porn shop." So it was always conversation, and there was always people in and out everywhere, and just chaos constantly. It was
a
great, great time.
What's the really small venue in Nashville? Is it called The End?
Yes.
Or End?
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, we played there on Body Snatcher, and it was fucking crazy. That one was cool.
That one gets wild.
Dude, Brooklyn.
That one can get pretty wild.
It was crazy. So full. It was so hot. But yeah, dude, Brooklyn Bowl is really nice. Has a bowling alley in there. Has really beautiful stained glass windows. Like, I remember that show being really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big California guy too. So like, one of my favorite venues that we played was the Anaheim House of Blues. Super beautiful, massive place, like really fun. And then a recent venue that we played that I'll probably like never forget the experience. I just loved being there, was the Chicago House of Blues.
Ooh.
Just beautiful. Like, it looks crazy. Like, such amazing decor, and Chicago in itself is just a really fun city. So I'd put that up there pretty high.
All right, awesome. Hell yeah. I'll definitely have to come out next time you guys are in Nashville. Come out and watch you do your thing.
Yeah, please do.
All right, so I've taken up way too much of your time. I know you are super busy. We've talked about that a lot. I wanted to ask one last question, and that is, if you will, you have the floor to just give some advice for maybe an aspiring vocalist, a new vocalist, someone thinking about picking up the mic, someone that's been going for a little bit, maybe they're discouraged. What kind of advice can you give to newer vocalists?
Kind of what I was saying before, but I'll really hammer down on it, is like, be kind and be patient to yourself. Like, you don't need to compare yourself to other people. Like, especially when in terms of their progress, like, other people have different skill levels. Other people consume knowledge and learn things differently. Like, do shit at your own pace and don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Worry about your journey as a vocalist and what you're doing, and just like focus on doing it healthily. Don't hurt yourself. And yeah, just be patient.
Awesome. Great advice. All right, so I will have all of your stuff down below. I've got it pinned now in the live chat, but I'll also have it in all the descriptions. For those listening, the song is out now. Righteous Man is already out by the time
it's
this
out,
comes out
next week.
Yeah, well, by the time this comes out, it'll be out.
Yeah.
So definitely go show that love. Go blow it up. Do all the stuff. Is there anything you want to plug? The floor is yours. Plug away for anything and everything.
Carcosa doesn't have any tours booked for the rest of 2024, but Angelmaker does. We're playing with the Black Dahlia Murder, Dying Fetus, Spite, and Vomit Forth in the fall, which is really cool. And for anybody who's in Australia, we're doing a tour in Australia with Silosis in 2025, which is going to be pretty sick. We haven't been over there yet, so it's going to be fun. And then, we got new music coming out soon, so...
Hell yeah.
That's kind of it.
Silosis in Australia. That's going to be awesome. Is that your first time going to Australia? Have you been over there before?
Never.
Oh. I've heard good things about Australia, so that should be a blast for you.
I can't wait.
Hell yeah. Well, Johnny, thank you so much, man, for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for all the advice and chatting with me, and we'll talk soon, man.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You have a good one, man.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you all so much for watching or listening to this episode of Behind the Vocals featuring Johnny Ciardullo of Carcosa and Angelmaker. Please be sure to check out all of the links down below for his socials, as well as the band's Spotify's. Please be sure to go jam them, show them some love, and keep an eye out for tour dates and see when they're coming through a city close to you. Thank you all so much for watching or listening, and I'll catch you guys and gals on the next one.